Hey everyone, it's Adrian and I'm here with Vicky Chapman. Vicky, thanks for being with us.
Thank you for inviting me.
It's my pleasure. Now, Vicky is, I don't want to say a yoga teacher because I think that's not really fair. I mean, you're someone, I guess we should start with how you got into yoga, because when I first met you and I was getting into yoga, which first as a guy it's quite difficult because you're surrounded, I shouldn't say it's surrounded by women, it's difficult, but you kind of don't know where to start. And I was looking for someone who was passionate about stuff, because I think if you're going to learn something, you want to learn it from someone who lives and breathes it. But how did you get into yoga to start?
So the first time I ever tried yoga when I was traveling through America, and it was just a random activity that the hostel had planned for the day. No one had said, you know, you should try yoga, or it never crossed my mind before that. And then I went and did a class. You just paid a donation, which was great because I had no money while I was traveling. And it was an Ashtanga class of like 150 people at a really famous studio in Santa Monica in LA. And I was so overwhelmed, and I was like looking around at all these sweaty people all moving together and breathing together, and I was so challenged. It was so difficult. And I just fell in love straight away from the first class. And then I had a day's break, and then I went back by myself the day after. And then I've been doing it ever since. So just finding it wherever I could and just keeping it up. I think it is really it's really addictive because it makes you feel so good. And it was literally love at first practice.
Do you know, I mean, because yoga is really, really hugely popular now, as are things like meditation, which kind of goes hand in hand with yoga. Why do you think it is that it's suddenly so popular now?
I think because everyone's so busy and so stressed in our everyday lives. You know, I guess it's kind of like we're expected to be run off our feet busy, and if we're not busy, then we're lazy or we're wasting time.
That's very true.
That's the perception.
Yeah.
And I think yoga gives you a chance to leave your day, and meditation as well, leave work, leave whatever it is that you're doing, and when you come to your mat, or, you know, to your seat if you're meditating, or pranayam, whatever it is that your practice is, that you leave everything else behind and you're just there working with your body and being in your body for that 90 minutes or hour or however long you can dedicate to that.
Sure. And so how long, at this point, how long have you been doing yoga for?
So I first tried yoga when I was 20, and so I'm 26 now. I did my yoga teacher training after almost 2 years of practice, and I was practicing a lot of Ashtanga yoga. And then I did just a Hatha Iyengar mix. It's called Purna training as a foundation. And then I really felt like I didn't know enough from one training and decided to do another, and then that's kind of when it solidified that I should have been a yoga teacher.
Just out of interest, what were you, because you mentioned you were 20 when you started, did you have any plans to be something else before the yoga happened?
Totally. I was a corporate travel agent, and I was just traveling lots at that particular time.
Wow, I didn't know that.
And had never thought about doing yoga. Like, it wasn't something that crossed my mind, but I liked stretching, and I'd always been kind of like athletic, and I'd always, I guess, done some form of movement, and it just suited me really well. It just made me really like fall into my body and really receive what was happening, and I loved it.
I mean, yoga is very popular. These days, a lot of people are wanting to lose weight. I don't think it's getting any better. I think these days, it's almost replacing weight loss with trying to look strong now.
Yeah,
but
strong is the new skinny.
Yeah, and it's like, it's not. It's strong is strong and skinny is skinny, but either way, you're trying to make yourself look a certain way, which normally means you're deeply unhappy most of the time. Because yoga is not really about changing your body, although a lot of people experience that through yoga. Why has yoga become, like, what are the benefits of yoga? The kookaburras in the back. What are the physical benefits of yoga? If someone is interested in yoga, but they don't want to give up other forms of exercise, and they don't have to, but what are the physical benefits of doing yoga?
Right at, I guess, the basic physical elements. more strength and more flexibility in a balanced way. If you look at, and it's a holistic practice, so, one exercise isn't going to be targeting one muscle group, it's a whole body practice, and it's creating that balance between strength and flexibility. So even like with your tennis, you said a certain amount of degrees, more flexibility in your shoulder will give you more power on your serve. It's the same with any other sport. If you're more flexible, you're going to have less injuries because of tight muscles. I think a lot of the time I hear people say, I'm not flexible enough to do yoga. That is literally your first main reason for coming. Circulation, I guess that's not so much of like a physical thing that you're going to notice a lot, but, blood flows and that's where energy moves. So you want as much circulation through your limbs as you can. And when you're moving, you do build up that heat. That's why, a lot of hot yoga it's good, but it's not totally necessary for you to be in a 40 plus degree heated room, because you're creating that energy within yourself with your movement.
I think on that note, and this is something that I experienced, I don't know if everyone else did, but when you start yoga, and sometimes you look at the timetable, and there's all these weird words, and you don't know what they mean. Sometimes I actually use English words like basic or flow. Other times you see hatha, vinyasa, and all sorts of other power flow, but what are all the different types of yoga, and where should someone start?
I think that the language that we use maybe, especially on, when you're looking at a timetable at a studio, I think studios assume that if you're going to be a beginner and you go to a studio, you might choose the beginner's class on the timetable, which is a really good introduction to yoga if you don't know, I guess, the foundations of where to put your feet, how to breathe, that type of thing. And then the wording, I guess, the choice of language for the stronger classes, the words are Sanskrit, and everything really originates from the hatha practice. Hatha is like sun, moon, yin, yang, balance. And then we kind of focus on the West, on the physical, and that's the vinyasa flow. So it's really any movement linking two postures. So you would be moving a lot through practice. But it's all just language. It's really about finding a studio that teaches alignment and safety in a way that you really like. Everyone's different and everyone resonates with different teachers and different styles of yoga, and that's why there's so many different ones, because there's one for everyone. It's not like, oh, that yoga's just not for me. It just means you just haven't found the one that you really enjoy yet.
Is it safe to say then finding the good instructor is more important than finding a good studio?
Oh, totally. Like, vibe of the studio matters, and like energetically, you want it to be a friendly, warm place, which hopefully all yoga studios are.
Sure.
But I think very much the teacher. You can go to a great studio and still not receive a really good class if the teacher isn't great. It could be a student teacher or someone that's, only just been certified and they're getting their practice, you know. So really find a teacher, and, so many of my students follow me to all the different studios I teach at, and I love that. It's so nice to see all the friendly faces follow you around because they appreciate what you're sharing.
For sure.
Yeah.
You do a lot of school and yoga.
Yes, school yoga.
Yoga in school. It's a Friday. Mainly with teenage girls at the moment. What do you find the teenage girls love about their yoga practice?
I think they like moving, as all like young girls do, and older girls. And I think it eliminates, I guess, of self-consciousness about moving.
Right.
It brings them into their bodies more, and I think they just really enjoy being in that space of like, just feel it, whatever's going on. And I don't think they get told to do that very often.
Yeah.
And I think also when kids are younger, teenagers are younger, we're told to not go near pain or things that are relating to, like, that's hot, don't touch it.
Yeah.
But as we get older, we realise that some things that we need to do that are benefit for us are sometimes painful or uncomfortable, like a stretch. And I think that when girls or teenagers, they hit that point and then they're like, I realise that this is really good for me.
Yeah.
And then they feel really good. And they're like, I don't know why I feel really good, but this is awesome. So it might not be on the, more subtle levels that they're really noticing a huge difference, but they're just enjoying it as a whole.
Have you found that, I don't this may be, again, just me, but have you found that working with those young girls doing yoga, that there's a deeper relationship that forms as well? Like they see you more as a mentor, or they'll come to you and say, thank you so much, you helped me with this, and you had no idea?
Yeah, totally. And I have quite a few young girls that, you know, I've been at a few schools for sometimes 4 years, and,
Wow,
you know,
quite a
some
long
of those
time.
girls have been with me because it's mixed from year 7 to 12 all together.
Yeah.
I've had them since they were in year 7. And then other schools I have just the 1 year, so it would be year 12, and then I don't get to see them again, really. But some of those girls that I've had for like 4 years are like, I think I want to be a yoga teacher when I leave school.
Wow.
I've had 1 or 2 and I'm like, that is just awesome. And then I have a few that come and help me at workshops because they're like, we need to do some volunteering. Can we come and help?
Wow.
I'm like, yeah. I love that they really enjoyed, and they're taking it away as going, you know, during the holidays I did my stretches so that I wouldn't hurt when I come back.
That's got to be good for you to hear. There's got to be a huge compliment that someone wants to emulate you.
Totally, I love it. And I think also you have to relate to them. When we go into schools, teachers have a very authoritative, you know, demeanour, and they're very strict and quiet, and you listen to what the teacher says. When you're teaching them yoga, there's actually more of a respect thing on their level, just saying, in yoga you be respectful, and I respect you, you respect me, and then they totally get it. It's weird, you don't need to have that authority of you put your foot here and you do that. They really like that, I think.
Well, I think there's an old saying that respect is earned. The authority is not.
Yes.
I totally take your point because, well, I've worked in schools a lot as well, and sometimes there's no rapport between teacher and student.
Totally.
And it really shouldn't be that. I mean, teacher and student should be like a mentoring. It should be like a holistic thing, not just do what I tell you to.
Yeah.
Right. Let's talk about men and yoga. Why, and you have personal experience with this, I know, why is it so hard to get some men into yoga? And what do you think their biggest misconception is? What stops them from getting into yoga?
The biggest misconception for men not trying yoga, once they tried it, that's not a problem. But to get them to try it is the assumption that stretching is feminine. And that all the things that you do when you're younger for flexibility, say dancing, gymnastics, all those type of things have a feminine association rather than a masculine. And the way that our culture is these days, it's hugely identified as male or female. That's where it comes from. That's the seed of it. But then also as they get older, they've not done any stretching from when they're teenagers to when they're, you know, maybe in their 20s, and they're some play sports, some guys don't do anything when they get older, and then they get really tight. And if they're doing weights, then it's just tighter and tighter as well. And so that they have less range of movement, they have less flexibility, and then when you ask them to use it, they find it really hard. And because it's really hard, they don't want to do it.
Do they ever think it's easy?
No.
No.
I teach a lot of martial arts guys, so jiu-jitsu and kettlebellers and that type of thing. And they find some things really, really hard, but there's so many things that men are so naturally good at in yoga as well that women take ages to get, like, you know, arm balances, you know, standing poses where they're really grounded and masculine and strong. Right. It's just the stretching that guys struggle with, and not all, just a lot, and they're actually a lot more determined to stay with the stretches. I think guys are really like, oh, this is so painful, but God, I need to do it.
I can't wimp out in front of all the girls, basically.
Yeah, there's 10 girls around me. They're all doing it. If I can't stay here.
but the point I want to get across to men, if you're a man watching this and you're going, yoga's not for me, whatever, but yoga and flexibility in general can help with athletic performance, right? It's not just a case of I should do some stretching. If you are lifting weights, I think kettlebell is a good example because that's more a range of motion than really just standing there doing that. How does yoga, because I just know the men out there are going to go, I don't care about injury. Because men are men, I'm not going to get injured. Because when they do get injured, you never hear the end of it. But how does increasing flexibility or yoga help you with sports performance?
Well, so like I mentioned before, with the injury prevention, because you have more range of movement in your joints, so less, obviously, chance of injury. More flexible, so that you're not going to pull something as well as, you know, really damage your joints. But in the flow and effect, you'll perform better. You have quicker rebound times, stronger core, stronger supportive muscles for stabilizing. Your breathing is better, which will help a lot for lots of athletes. It's really endless. But
yoga started, and correct me if I'm wrong, yoga started as only as men could do it, right?
Yeah, so back, in India, where yoga has come from, women weren't allowed to practice yoga at all. It was purely a man's thing, and still the, stronger forms of yoga, like Ashtanga, they were developed for like teenage boys to train as soldiers. So it's a really strong practice. And
there's nothing sissy about that.
Yeah, no, there's strong movements, and I think, I don't know, somewhere along the line it's got confused as why, 80% of people, probably even 85, 90% of women practicing yoga are women rather than the 5 or 10% that are men left, whereas it was totally the other way around.
Yeah.
I think men just have to get comfortable with knowing that, okay, maybe you won't be the best at it first time, but yoga's not about being the best or being able to get into that final pose. It's about showing up and trying, and then knowing that you have forever to achieve, longer hamstrings or, it's when you rush things. I think that's where men have that little bit more of, I need an immediate result.
I guess that's also, you're coming up against modern day culture as well.
Totally.
Because modern day culture is, I should be able to do something in 5 minutes.
Exactly.
We lose weight in 10 minutes with no effort.
Yeah.
And men are naturally, I guess, a bit more competitive.
Totally.
But as you mentioned, there are some parts of yoga because yoga is not all about flexibility, there's a lot of strength in it as well, right?
Yeah.
And the men are naturally better at some of those elements, right?
Yeah, definitely. It took me a year and a half to learn how to do a bakasana, which is just a crow pose, like arm balance. And I remember before I could do it, I was trying to teach it to one of my friends, a really big muscly guy. And he was like, hey, just look what I can do. And just floated straight from arm balance into tripod headstand and then back to bakasana. And I was like, I've been trying to do that for like 2 years, and you just floated into it just because you've seen it once. So,
and that made you feel very happy.
Oh, I was defeated. But then I was like, I'm going to get that. And now that I can do it, I think that's what you need, that balance of flexibility and strength. For a very bendy woman, just as it is a really strong guy, have those limitations when they come to practice, and you just have to work to even it out.
Sure.
If you can get an all-rounded practice, that's great, and that's going to benefit all the other things that you do as well.
For sure. If someone is looking to start a yoga practice, I don't mean the business, but they want to get into yoga. So you mentioned the beginner classes. Is that where everyone would start, and then you sort of branch off from there depending on what it is you want out of the yoga?
I would definitely say start at a beginner class. From my experience, I started with a very strong form of yoga, and I practiced that for about 9 months with certain teachers, and then I went to find this, it was a Buddhist centre when I was living in the UK, and I wanted to do their course as well as the ones I was doing, and they were like, no, you can't go into advanced no matter what you've been doing, you need to do the beginner's course first so we can see what your practice is like.
Right.
And I did the course, and they were like, whoa, like you're just really, really flexible, you're not doing any of the strengthening things properly, like I couldn't hold a plank properly, but I could flow through a vinyasa, just looking like I was doing it right. But not doing it right. Yeah. And so they were like, whoa, back out of everything, come back. And I did the whole course with them. And then they're like, okay, now you've refined those things that you couldn't do and added to the things that you could do. And now you can go to the advanced. I didn't have to stay with the intermediate. But I think it's always up to the practitioner to say what they're able to do.
Yeah.
But to have accurate self-assessment at the same time and be like, I should probably start at the beginning and not have an ego attached to wanting to do the hardest things straight away.
Sure.
It's all patience. If you do beginners and you get really confident with those movements, when you take the next class up or, the next level of difficulty, or you're not going to be as, like you can't handle it. You'll feel really confident in the movements that you have, and you might be challenged, yes, but you always know that you have a good foundation to build upon.
Yeah. With finding a good instructor, a lot of the times people go to a gym and they'll look at the qualifications, right? Cert 4, diploma. With a yoga, if you're looking at a yoga instructor, how important are the qualifications? I mean,
so the minimum amount of qualification you can get to teach a class, so be insured to teach a public class, is 200 hours, which originally was done in more of like an apprenticeship type of way, but now as we've time poor and money rich, then, well, not rich,
some of us.
but time poor.
Time poor.
Then, you know, we're getting courses now that are as short as 2 weeks face-to-face contact, and then so it would be, I guess it would be 100 hours in 2 weeks. And then 100 hours of like home stuff, assignments. You have to attend a certain amount of classes, and that would be 200 hours. So it's really not a lot of contact time and not a lot of teaching. And there's no prerequisite to do that.
Yeah.
When I did my teaching, they're like, you have to have had like signed off practice, you know, been with one teacher for 2 years before you could do your teacher training.
Wow.
So you had to have already been to a certain standard.
So the standards have dropped somewhat.
Very much so, because so many schools are running teacher trainings. So if you're going to try and find a good teacher, a best way to look at them is one, that they teach a style of yoga that you like, that they're certified or they've trained in that. And then how much training have they had in that? Like I said, 200 hours is a minimum. Yeah. And then usually up from that is a 500-hour like advanced yoga teacher training.
Wow.
Which I've done 2, 3 of those. And then you can do like 100-hour, you can do 100-hour modules and, you know, short courses to add to more hours if you like. But the hours in the end don't really mean anything unless you're trying to be Yoga Alliance certified for a certain amount of hours to teach teachers. So to run your own teacher trainings. Right. And then doing the same thing where having it be 2 weeks or a month or 6 months. I really think that the good courses to do if you're trying to fit it into your life, if you wanted to do teacher training, would be a 6-month part-time thing, because it's really easy to fit into your life and you can practice what you're learning at the same time.
Because that's important, right? I mean, trying to fit everything into, you know, a compressed time sounds good in theory, but if you cram everything in and you don't actually have any practical experience, you can't really then go and teach, not something like yoga.
Exactly. I mean, well, a lot of people, and like I said, when I came out of my 200 hours, I didn't feel like I was confident enough to teach people that had been practicing longer than me and that already knew more than me, that maybe weren't teachers. Well. And I was 21. Yeah. 20, 21. So, yeah, I think the level of experience that you have, and then once you start to teach, that's when you really start to learn, and everything is going to evolve from that. But you need to have a good basis for your teaching first and have that commitment to your practice. Just teaching isn't the end. You're always a student first. Sure. So always learning.
Sure. So the qualifications, in essence, they're a guide. Yeah. But I guess it's like anything else. You should try a few different teachers, a few different studios, and just find one that you gel with, because you will eventually find one.
And then the longer that people have been teaching, usually the more trainings that they've had, and maybe the more experience that they have. But don't judge a book by its cover. Some people, you know, assume because I'm young that I haven't been teaching very long, and then, you know, you'll have maybe a 40 or 50-year-old man or woman that have decided to start doing their teacher training.
I've been to ones like that. That was interesting.
Yeah. And then it's not any worse or any better, but people assume if you're that age that they've been teaching for 30 years where they've been teaching for 6 months.
For sure.
You know. But yeah, it's just try them all until you find one that you like and then stick with them.
I'll get you to share your email, not your email address, but your website and contact details in a sec. Just before we finish, do you know Inside the Actors Studio?
No.
No one does. I thought everyone did. Inside the Actors Studio, it's all the famous actors. So you have like your Robert Downey Jr.'s, your Jodie Fosters, your Al Pacino. Yeah. They all come onto stage, and it's front of a group of people who want to be actors. So they're starting to be an actor. And the host of the show always ends with the same questions. And he's famous for asking those questions. And I'm just going to ask you the same questions. Okay. This has nothing to do with yoga. These are just the questions that he ends with.
Go ahead.
Here we go. What is your favorite word?
Moist.
The kookaburras are laughing at the same time. That's an interesting one.
Just because some people love it and most people hate it, and so it's just a good word.
Makes me feel a bit icky, that word.
Yeah, that's why.
What is your least favourite word?
Least favourite? I don't know. I haven't thought about it. Probably hate. I hate when people say hate.
No, that's a good one.
Yeah.
What turns you on?
Yoga. Acrobatics. Travelling. Friends. Just life in general.
That sounds like a good lifestyle.
Yeah.
What turns you off?
Long hours of admin and bad weather. I'm a sunny person. I like the warm weather and being outside and just, I guess enjoying the environment.
For sure.
Yeah, if that's not there, then
I understand that when as someone who works outdoors, you work indoors, I think.
Yeah, it's indoors compared to outdoors, but I'm not an office worker. Like, I couldn't do that anymore. I did it, and if you said today, could you go back to it, I'd be like, no, I couldn't be inside all day. I couldn't do it.
Fair enough.
Yeah.
What sound or noise do you love?
My dog. All her range of noises.
What sound or noise do you hate?
Jackhammering in the morning when you're trying to sleep outside.
That's interesting. The person I interviewed yesterday said traffic. I'm noticing a common theme here. Now, what is your favourite curse word?
I have a bit of a potty mouth, so I say fuck a lot.
Everyone has said fuck.
Yeah.
Everyone picks that one. It's a good one. Yeah. What profession other than your own would you like to attempt?
I always wanted to be a veterinarian when I was really little. Like, that's what I wanted to do before I worked in travel. I was like, I'll be a veterinarian one day. Now I'm a yoga teacher, but probably that. Okay,
I can guess this one, but what profession would you not like to do?
Construction.
I can't imagine you doing construction.
No.
That's about as far removed from yoga, I think, as you can get.
Yeah, I'd be like, I'm dirty, I'm uncomfortable, this is not good.
Last question. If heaven exists, what would you like to hear God say when you arrive at the pearly gates?
Everyone's welcome.
That's a good one.
Yeah. Party on.
Rock on.
Yeah, I'm imagining a scene from This Is the End with James Franco, and they walk into heaven and everyone's having joints and a Backstreet Boys dancing.
Oh my God,
scene.
Backstreet Boys. Just having flashbacks now. I feel younger again. Most people don't know what Backstreet Boys are anymore. I work with teenagers. If people wanted to get in touch with you, what's the best way?
So you can just look on our Facebook page. It's Forever Evolving, really easy.
And I'll put that underneath as a link.
And the website is www.forever-evolving.com.au. And just check us out.
Fantastic. And Vicky does, obviously, group classes, private classes, and everything in between. So even if, we're in Sydney, even if she's not in your local area, I'm sure if you send her an email, she'll be more than happy to guide you into the right direction. Vicky, thank you so much for being here.
Thanks, Adrian.
I'll speak to you soon, and have a good day.